Hi, so earlier this month I hauled these 3 books. I've now since read them and now I'm reviewing them, and that is the Breathing series by Rebecca Donovan. So it's the first book, Reason to Breathe, the second book, Barely Breathing, and the last book, Out of Breath. So I would say that these are probably new adult novels, partially because of the ages, but mostly because of the content. So first, let's talk about a synopsis. So, Reason to Breathe, the first book, is about a girl named Emma, and she lives in an abusive home. And this is not a spoiler, you learn on page 1. She lives with her aunt and uncle, and her aunt physically abuses her, like, beats her up, and, emotionally abuses her too, like, calls her horrible names and says horrible things to her. And all she wants to do is keep her head down, get through high school so she can leave this life behind. And she ends up meeting this guy named Evan, and he kind of makes her change the way she's thinking about things and makes her question her situation and what she should do and things. I don't know. This book alone is like 4 books of other things. There's so much stuff that happens. The series as a whole is really about the effects that abuse, in my opinion, this is what it's about, the effects that abuse can have on a person, and how over time being treated that way or those ways affect how you interact with people and how you behave, and and how different people can handle it different ways, and how it affects the people in your life. I have to say, I give each and every single one of these books 5 stars, so the series gets 5 stars from me, and I cannot pick a favorite out of them. It's almost hard to pick a favorite because of the content. Like, I almost want to say Reason to Breathe is my favorite, but it was also probably the one I struggled with the most because of the content, so it's hard for me to say if that's my favorite or not. But that leads well into something else I want to talk about, and that's how frustrating these books are. Because of the content and the way Rebecca Donovan writes, she's one of those authors who can make you feel like the main character is feeling. So like in Reason to Breathe, I don't think this is a spoiler, she kind of starts having this like relationship with the boy Evan, and it has to be a secret, and so the whole time I'm reading it, I'm like constantly anxious that they're going to get found out, that something's going to happen, that her aunt is going to freak out, that her aunt is going to do something horrible, and it was so hard for me to read. Really the only other thing I can think of that was similar, and I don't know if other people felt this way, but when I read Where She Went by Gail Forman, I had similar feelings reading that, where I was just so overly emotional about what I was reading. It was hard for me to physically read these books, where it was physically draining. I had to take a break in reading the series between the second and third books and just read something light and easier, because it was just, I couldn't handle it. Especially the abuse scenes, they were really hard for me to read, which is a good thing. That means they were written well and realistically. I almost wanted to skim those scenes because it was hard for me to read them, to see that could happen to a person, and that somebody who's supposed to love and care for you could treat you that way. But I didn't want to skim them. I think the fact that it makes you uncomfortable is a good thing and shows you how horrible some people can be, and how you should stand up for the people that are in those situations if you know what's going on. Let's talk about the relationships. So there's a few different types of relationships in this book. So first we'll talk about the love story. I would say I don't think that this love story is for everybody. I think some people might think it's overly emotional and angsty and intense, perhaps unhealthy, I would say, but I don't. I really, really enjoyed it. I can see the flaws in it, but I can also see the greatness in it. So I would understand if some people didn't like it, but I really enjoyed it. I also really liked the friendship. So Emma basically has one friend, and her name is Sarah, and Sarah and Emma have such a great relationship. It is not flawless. They have fights, they have arguments, but that happens. That's natural. That these two girls are so close, and that they're able to have such a good, strong friendship throughout the series, I really appreciated. It's just, I love seeing female friendships being good things and not being ripped apart by boys or petty, like, catty things, but like true strong relationships. That's what we need, especially in young adult, because it does influence teenagers. And then as the series goes on, and even in Reason to Breathe, Emma kind of opens up and starts to interact with more girls, and I think that's a good thing. It's, you see her learning in general how to be friends with people. I guess some other just like random things. These books are definitely very raw, very honest, very intense, but that's what I really appreciated about them, and that's what I was looking for when I picked them up, so they delivered for me. There's also a shift in the writing style in the last book, Out of Breath, which I really liked, but I feel like I haven't read reviews for these or anything, but I would assume some people wouldn't like the change because it's done in a weird way, but I really liked it. I thought it added like a level of like an extra level of intensity to it, and it was something I had never read before, and I thought it was done really well and really enjoyed it. Overall, I really enjoyed these. Like I said, I feel like I've said enjoyed a million times, although I feel like it's weird to say I enjoyed them because they're so, like, the content is so, like, intense. Oh, really quick, this song came out when I was in high school. It's called Alyssa Lies. If I can remember to do it, I will link it in the description, like a YouTube video or something. And that's what this book, the first book, or this series and the first book reminds me of. I actually texted my dad and said something to him about it. I was like, I'm basically reading a book that is Alyssa Lies. It's a country song, and it's about a girl who's being, like, physically abused and people are ignoring it, which is basically what's going on in this series. Like, Emma's best friend Sarah knows she's being abused, but doesn't say anything because Emma asks her not to. And the song is so sad because it's all about how people ask Alyssa what's happening and Alyssa lies, and then at the end it says Alyssa lies with Jesus tonight, which, means she died, and it's like, I could always just keep thinking about that song when I was reading these books. What else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, but I really liked Rebecca Donovan's writing style. Also, can we please look at her author picture? Because look at it. She's like the most like put together, like she looks like an East Coast like mom or something. I don't know. There's a Evan's mom. I feel like that's what she looks like in this book, Evan's mom. But she writes such like intensely emotional books. I'm just like, where did this come from? But she has another series coming out soonish, I think. And I definitely want to check that out because I really did like her writing style, and that one has an interesting concept to it as well. On to would I recommend this book, or this series, and this is where I struggled because initially I want to say yes, obviously. I gave all 3 books 5 stars. I'm not sure that's ever happened, like ever. I can't think of any series where I've been like, oh my gosh, all of them, all good, great, amazing. But I struggled to recommend it recommend it without reservation because I do not think it's for everybody. Like I said, I don't think the romance is for everybody. I don't think everyone can handle the content. So you need to go into it aware of what you're going into. Like, you should know that it's about physical abuse, and it's about this character's struggle with what she's going through, and that the romance is very, very, I don't even want to say angsty, like it is, but it's more than that. But if you like those types of books and those types of reads and you can handle that kind of content, then I think you would enjoy it. Some things that have similar feel to them, I would say, are The Program by Suzanne Young, where it deals with like super intense psychological issues and complications. If you enjoyed that, you might enjoy this. If something like the Hopeless series didn't bother you, well, if you know what I mean, then you could probably read this and not feel uncomfortable. But like I said, it's just something you want to go into with caution. Thank you for watching, and if you have read these books, let me know down in the comments. If you've read anything similar, also let me know, because these blew me away, and if I could read more books that were like this, I would really like to. So if you have any suggestions, like I said, leave them in the comments, and thanks for watching. Bye!